Hi, I'm Bill Corcoran Jr., and I'm your host for the On the Stacks podcast. Today, I'm chatting with Dr. Jill Murray, President and Chief Innovation Officer at Lackawanna College. What's up, podcast? Episode 62 of the On the Stacks podcast in the Blue Door studio. Welcome to the podcast, Dr. Murray. How are you?
Hi, how are you? Nice to see you.
Yeah, you too. I mean, you came all the way from Scranton.
It's like time travel. It's like crossing the 38th parallel.
Like, no one does that.
I know. Well, I needed a passport.
You made it through customs okay?
I did.
No searches or seizures?
No, but they looked at me funny.
Did they?
Yes.
Well, I mean, maybe because you had the Falcon in the passenger seat, but...
I did, and I had all these flags and pennants and all these kinds of crazy pictures, and everybody was like, where are you going?
And you didn't tell them, right?
And I said, to Wilkes-barre. Oh, no, they said.
You can't go that far. It's like so far. People don't cross the line.
It's nice to be here, Billy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm honored to have you on. You're the first woman president of Lackawanna College.
Yes, I am.
And that's really something special.
It's an honor, really, to be the first woman president. I was very fortunate enough to work for two previous presidents, Ray Angeli, and then one of my great mentors and friends, Mark Volk. And it was just an honor to follow the trail that they blazed, and it's a great place to be.
That's cool. So I want to hear some, more about your journey, becoming, the president of Lackawanna College. But let's kind of take it back. You have some great experiences. You used to be a UPS driver, from what I understand.
I was a UPS driver.
So kind of take me back. Tell me a little bit about your schooling and
Sure.
then what you did after undergrad and grad school.
Born and raised in Scranton, really, I was a proud product of the Scranton Public Schools. Yay, public school. And I'm, so proud to be an advocate for the Scranton School District and their turnaround and what they're trying to do there. Then from there, I went to the University of Scranton. My dad was a chemist, and my mom a nurse, and I thought I wanted to be a surgeon. I think they really wanted me to be a surgeon. And you don't really think about that as you're growing up. You just always think, oh, yes, that's what I'm going to do. But I wasn't good at that, and I saw surgery a couple times and I passed out, and I thought, this isn't for me. Science gene wasn't there, and so I decided to go to the liberal arts, and I became a philosophy major, which I loved.
Yeah. Well, at least you learned that and knew that about yourself early on.
I did. When I was a kid, my mom would say, let me take you to school, and I'd be like, oh, no, I need to think, so I'm going to walk. I should have known then, right?
Yeah.
And then went to upstate New York for my master's degree. And, as with so many of us, family brings you back or circumstances bring you back home. So I finished my master's, came back home, and was looking for a job. And UPS was hiring at the time. And I was very fortunate to go immediately into driving. I was a full-time driver, package car driver.
So like the typical brown truck that pulls up like when you order something online?
Big brown.
Yeah.
112101 was my truck number.
Wow,
I'll never forget it.
Yeah, how about that?
Yeah. And I loved it. It was really one of the best jobs I ever had. It was really a formative role for me, an experience. I really got to understand customer relationships and people and life in a different way than I had experienced really ever. And I learned about commerce and pressure and time and commitments. And when you're a UPS driver, it's tight. It's a tight, disciplined career, and everything is by the moment. They teach you everything in terms of your keys on your right pinky finger, close the door with your left. I mean, pull the mirrors in. It's a very structured, very time sensitive job, but it was wonderful. I loved it.
So it sounds like you learned a lot.
I did. I learned a ton, and I don't think I recognized that until after I was out of doing that. I went into management.
Management there?
At UPS.
Okay.
Right, I was an operations manager. Loved it. It's a lot, though. I mean, that is a 24/7, 365 operation, and by design, right? I mean, they carry ridiculous amount of the gross national product every day, and gross domestic product, and it's a wonderful organization. But it was a lot. And then I moved to the realm of healthcare, but it was really operations management at Cigna in Scranton. But I had multi-site management responsibilities. I was in Bristol, I was in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and so on. And that was a great experience as well. And then I got recruited to go start up an institute at Marywood University. And in starting that institute, I also was a member of the doctoral faculty for the doctoral program. I completed my doctorate while I was going to UPS and Cigna. And then I became a doctoral faculty member, and that's where actually I met Mark Volk. He was my student in the doctoral program.
Yeah, so he was the previous president at
He was previous
Lackawanna.
president. Yes.
Yeah.
And after the class was over, after the semester was over, he said, I think I need an academic vice president. Would you be interested? And I was like, what?
So this was for a position now at Lackawanna.
At Lackawanna College, right. And so I went over and I interviewed, I met the great people at Lackawanna College, and I was fortunate enough to be named their academic vice president at that particular time. And then when Mark became, he was executive vice president then, so that was 2008. And then in 2012, he became the president, and I moved into his role, which was the executive vice president, and I added a little tag that said Chief Innovation Officer on the edge of that title. And then I was so fortunate, as he was announcing his retirement, Colonel Volk also had a previous very distinguished service career. He was in the Army, and a incredible guy, a hero 9/11. When he decided he was going to retire, I really wasn't sure that I wanted to take that next step. I really was not positive at all. In fact, the job that I had was my dream job.
Why weren't you? Why didn't you think you could do it? Is it you thought you couldn't do it?
I don't know that I thought that I couldn't do it. I wasn't sure that the job of president was what I wanted to do. Gotcha. I love operations.
So you really just were enjoying what you were doing.
I was loving it. And then our football coach, Mark Duda, came to see me. And this is a true story. I don't know if you know Mark Duda, but Mark's a big, big guy. Former professional football player, very successful Hall of Fame coach. And he looked at me and he said, listen, you could be the boss or you could have a boss. And if you want to go in a direction, if you don't want this college to go in a direction that someone else takes it, then you got to put your hat in the ring. And I thought to myself, you know what? As simple as that is, we were on a great trajectory, and I really did not want that to change. So I put my hat in the ring, and I was fortunate enough to be named the next president.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, but let me go back a little bit, though. You mentioned innovation.
Yes.
And it's kind of I think it's going to be kind of a theme of today's episode.
Yeah.
But tell me a little bit about that. You had that title, Chief Innovation Officer, right? Mm-hmm. What did you do?
Well, that's a really good question. Mark knew in his presidency that he wanted to make a mark, no pun intended. He really wanted to try and influence change in higher ed in a different way than other colleges and universities had. We had that as a shared and common goal. And I said to him, I think there's a lot of ways that we can be very innovative in how we approach higher education, different than other colleges and universities because we're so small. We have a very nimble process for curriculum and things like that. I think there's some things we can do. If you let us dream a little bit and throw a lot of spaghetti against the wall, I think we can come up with some great things. And we did. We came up with a new online education model. So it's called the Falcons Model. It stands for it's a big, long acronym, but it's basically a very structured online education process. It is not, what a lot of colleges and universities do where they don't have a lot of requirements. It's very structured. It's a lot of accountability. There's a lot of faculty engagement. We teach our faculty to be great teachers both in the classroom and online. They're evaluated consistently, and the outcomes for our online model are almost surpassing our on-ground model. So that's been a great process. We created a FALC, F-A-L-C, FALC model for our football and then translated that to our entire athletics program, where we held students to not just grade point averages, but behavioral standards. We trained them and gave them life skill training about, how to manage money, how to establish a checking account, how to navigate life, not just college. And those outcomes for these teams, both academically and personally, they often transfer to other places. Outstanding. We have lots of players in the NFL now. We have a couple of players drafted in Major League Baseball. So we've been very successful. And then as we thought about higher education in terms of the price point in higher education, as you know,
it's a little expensive.
It's crazy. It's just crazy. It's gotten out of control. And very often you're going to pay, you pay for amenities, the rock walls, the lazy rivers, and the things that really are very flashy and sexy. And we try to keep our price point very, very low. We're the lowest private school tuition and fees in the state of Pennsylvania, which we're very proud of. But we don't have a lot of flash, we don't have a lot of amenities. And we did that by design. And as we thought about the price of higher education, we also looked at our public school districts. And in Scranton, for example, there's 85% poverty in the Scranton School District. It's almost overwhelming.
That's alarming.
It's alarming. 53 languages spoken, so you have a lot of diversity in the school district, and we knew that a vast majority of these students, college would be out of reach for them. And so we designed a program called Level Up, which is kind of like dual enrollment, but better. And that program, instead of taking a dual enrollment class here or there, you take clusters of credits in a particular discipline so you could explore. And we designed that program to be about $100 a credit, which is very, very low, community college-like levels. And those credits transfer seamlessly to just about any college in the country. And students who take that program end up saving a ton of college tuition. And then there's the next part of Level Up, which is a student, a very ambitious student in high school, or a student that is applying to these very competitive schools, Ivies and so on, can actually get an associate's degree while they're in high school for $6,200 total cost. And if you're unable to afford that, we had an organization, Sordoni, once you cross the 38th parallel at Harvey's Lake, right?
Yeah.
Sordoni gave us $500,000 for scholarships so that students could afford it. And this year, there's going to be a savings of about $1.5 million in scholarships in college tuition for kids taking this program. So that was innovative and very unique, and that's what won the Fast Company Award.
I was going to say I was going to say it next, but you beat me to it.
Sorry.
So, yeah, no, all good. So tell me about this. You guys won this Fast Company Award, top 10 most innovative companies in the world. You guys were in the top 10.
Yes. So Fast Company has lots of categories inside their world's most innovative companies lists. And our list, the program that we applied for, was under the corporate social responsibility list. So trying to influence social and economic change in our communities, we applied for that category.
With the Level Up program,
With
right?
the Level Up program. And we were named top 10, number 9, on the Fast Company World's Most Innovative Companies list for corporate social responsibility. Microsoft's number 1, and we were number 9. Lackawanna College was number 9.
From Scranton, Pennsylvania. That's super cool.
It's really cool.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We've been getting a lot of calls, a lot of recognition from lots of different folks across the country.
Caught my attention.
Yeah, it certainly did.
You and I, we've been connected on LinkedIn for a while.
Yes.
But, when I saw this come out, I said, well, this is on the stacks worthy.
Yeah.
Not that you weren't before.
Listen, we weren't.
But I was waiting for the right time. And before we started, you and I were talking just 2 minutes before we came on. And I said, things just kind of happen at the right time with the right people, right time, right place.
Yep.
And, I've been eyeing you up for a long time, to be honest with you, and about coming on the podcast. And as soon as I saw this, I said, this is it.
This is it.
I was waiting for a reason.
It's a really prestigious award. We're so, honestly, when we applied for it, it was aspirational for us. And so we thought maybe we'd get some feedback on the application, or we would have someone kind of tell us, maybe next year.
Meaning you didn't think you would actually win.
Yeah. I don't think any of us really expected it. But we did. First shot. And we're just so thrilled. It's a game changer for us. And I think it put put us on the map in terms of our thinking, our leadership team's thinking, and how we go about sort of our day. It's not just about affecting one life at a time in a classroom. It's, we try to think bigger all the time.
That is like really, really impressive.
Thank you.
Yeah, that is so cool. Back to, some of the programs, the Level Up program, but there was also another program, the eSports.
Yes.
Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So eSports is competitive online video gaming, which a lot of people are becoming really familiar with now. In 2017, people thought we were crazy.
Like weird, right?
When I got articles sent to me, I'm on this, these crazy feeds about different trends in higher education, and I saw that people were giving scholarships for colleges and universities giving scholarships for esports. I was like, what is that? And so I did some research, and I became obsessed with the esports ecosystem and industry.
Why?
Because it's like the fastest growing thing since the internet. It's going to, this, believe it or not, the viewership, which is mostly streaming, right? It's not network TV, although ESPN did televise the national championships this year. And they have their own little piece of the app on the website. It's one of the fastest growing industries in the world. And the only sport that has more viewers is the NFL right now. So it has become the largest spectator sport in the world pre-COVID. And it generates, billions and billions of dollars every year. So we became obsessed with how does a college participate in this ecosystem? And you can imagine, of course, as I go into the president's office in 2017 and said, I have this idea. I think we should start an esports team. And of course he said, what is that? And I said, well, I explained to him what it was, and then said, but it's going to cost us a lot of money to invest in it, to set it up. The technology is pretty substantially expensive, but I think it's going to be worth it. We need this kind of technology for our online components anyway, online education components. I think it's worth doing, and I think we could probably get 40 students out of the gate. And he said, well, you pitch it to the board. I'm not going to pitch it to the board. I said, okay, but I better pitch it to the athletic director first, because it was going to be aligned with our athletic department. And I went to our athletic director, Joya Whittington, who's an athlete, and I explained esports, and she looked at me like, is this a joke? Like, are you kidding me?
Online?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I explained it to her. I showed her lots of different videos, and I showed her information, and she immediately got it. And she said, okay, I think we can do this. And so then we went to the board, and the board, believe it or not, so many people on the board either have kids that are playing video games or grandchildren that are playing video games. They got it immediately, and they approved our investment. And that was in January of 2018 that we got the approval. We hired a coach and a program director in May, and we had 36 students in September.
That is really neat.
Yeah, we were the first one in the region. A couple of other schools were thrilled that are joining forces and setting up teams. Misericordia has a team, Kings now has a team, Marywood has a team. So we're excited.
So you guys were the innovators.
We are.
Pioneers.
We're the pioneers. And it's not just the teams, right? We have this theater that we're in the process of converting to a live esports arena in our facility. It's going to be able to double as a standard theater for other events, but it's going to hold professional gaming competitions and collegiate gaming competitions and high school gaming competitions. We have a podcast, a video podcast. We have now a concentration under our business major. That's an esports concentration. And we're going to be starting up some e-commerce ventures with our esports gear, swag.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I just
think it's so cool, that you headed this up and made it happen. I just think for a college to, somebody to be able to do that, like yourself, it's just highly impressive.
Thank you. And, it was fun, but it's not me, right? I might have brought the idea, but it's the team. It's our leadership team that's able to kind of nuance ask great questions, pick it apart. Because if it wasn't going to work from a business perspective, they weren't going to go for it.
Yeah, makes sense.
And I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Right? I appreciate that a lot. And so this team, this leadership team that we have is just incredible group of thinkers and people and who want the best and want to keep providing access for students at every level because it's gender neutral. So it's young men, young women, it's students with disabilities. There's a lot of access points that check a lot of boxes for us and provide access to students that maybe wouldn't otherwise have had the opportunity to play on a competitive team for a number of reasons. So it's exciting.
And you guys went to the national championship.
We did. We went to the national championship in Rocket League and League of Legends. We lost, but that's okay because we're going to be back.
You got there.
That's right. And we have teams in Overwatch and Fortnite and, a couple of other games as well. We stayed away from the first-person shooter games, the Call of Duties and things like that. Our board was pretty specific that they wanted us to stay away from that, at least for now, which understandably so.
Sure.
But these kids, like everything else, in our athletic department, they have a structure. They have a workout schedule. They have a study hall schedule. They have a GPA requirement, so they're not like in a dark room all the time playing video games.
Yeah,
and
eating Cheetos.
Eating Doritos, right?
They're not?
No.
Oh. All right.
Yeah.
Do you play?
I'm a wuss, right? I play these little baby games. I can't keep up. I watch these, Rocket League or League of Legends, Overwatch, and I get motion sickness.
Too much.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. But these are legit athletes. I mean, in a different way that everyone else considers them athletes. But, the hand-eye coordination, the critical thinking, the strategy, it's all there. It's all there. There's some really clever, interesting ways to think about esports. And our coaches do a great job with these young kids, and they're having a blast.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So, it's not every day that, I guess somebody like me gets to sit down with, a president of a college. So, I'm sure a lot of people, myself included, want to know, what's a day-to-day look like for you?
Oh, my goodness.
Right?
Yeah.
A lot of people probably really wondering.
I wondered that myself, before
you took on the role.
Before I took the job. And because it's different different presidents have different priorities and they have different goals and things that they want to accomplish or achieve. And so for me, in the middle of a pandemic, right?
And besides listening to the podcast,
right. I listen to podcasts. Part of my day is listening to On the Stacks all the time in the Blue Door studio.
Yes, I paid Jill to say that. So,
but I spend a lot of time reading. I spend a lot of time learning, listening, watching. I spend a lot of time with students. I spend a lot of time thinking about how to raise money, which I never had to think about before. Spend a lot of time thinking about what is the future of higher education, not just Lackawanna College, and how do we help the school districts? How do we help the city in its turnaround? And we have 7 satellite centers, so it's really important for me and for us and for our team to think about how we participate in those communities in which we reside and work, and how do we have a meaningful experience, with our students and with our government agencies and our legislators. It's been a busy year.
Yeah, I was going to say
thinking about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Besides COVID, I mean, how do you do that stuff? What are some things you're doing?
Well, Zoom is. Nobody ever heard of Zoom before a year ago, pretty much, right? Zoom has become our best friend. And so we've had a lot of virtual meetings with legislators and other teams and funders and industry partners, which has been great. But we've also, as we started to now see vaccines rolling out, we've started to have people in person and have our advisory groups together. Our board meetings are now going to be in person, thank goodness. But technology has been our friend. And I think that's a lesson learned for me and for us that, there's ways to, to get to know people, for me, out of the gate and a new president, that doesn't always have to be in person or at a big dinner with 500 people. There is a way to do it a little bit more personally. And that for me has been good. I'm not a big crowd person. And so I like the more intimate settings, and Zoom has worked for us in that regard, and it's been great. It's been a great tool especially because there's just no other way to do it, to really get to know people and to put forth our agenda and where we're going for the future.
Yeah. So you kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, but like, talking about you becoming the president, but was it, I guess it probably wasn't, but was it your goal to ever become the president?
Never.
Never.
I was just having this conversation with someone the other day that I think it's so hard for students. Like someone will say to a little kid, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I keep saying, don't do that, because it's impossible to know. And it's not just impossible to know what you really want or what you're good at, but what's possible. I mean, I didn't even know what a college president did growing up. It never occurred to me that that would be something that would be possible or that I might be interested in. And as you go in life and as you explore and experience different things, like UPS changed my life. I never took a business class in my career, and I became obsessed with operations and how things worked and what was the best way for things to function and what was the most efficient way to do things, and that changed my life and my direction. So, and for young kids coming out of high school today, I would say relax, because probably in the end, your ideal job or the job you're going to end up with that you love the most doesn't exist yet.
Yeah. So, wow. Yeah. Good way of looking at it.
Yeah. So don't get scared about it.
Yeah.
You do need to explore. It's expensive to explore, but you have to find a way to tap into your strengths, not just what you think you do well.
What advice would you give to someone?
Someone in high school?
Yeah.
I would say,
or even in college.
I would definitely say work. You should have a job of some kind, whether that's a summer job or an internship. I think internships are like the greatest thing in the world. And try internships with different businesses. And, probably your family or someone that knows someone that's in business somewhere or has an organization or an agency that you might be interested in, that you can go job shadow for a day or two or a week. If you want to be a nurse, you should really find out what it's like to be a nurse and not just romanticize what it's like to be a nurse or a doctor or a lawyer. It's different than you see on TV, and it's hard work and it's not easy, but it's really rewarding. But you need the experience to do it. And so I would say healthcare has so many pathways. It's not just nurse or doctor. There's ultrasound technicians and surge techs and
so many specialties.
So many different things. Go call your local college, spend some time, job shadow, sit in a class, talk to people who are doing it, because I don't think people know enough about what's out there. So that would be my advice.
Yeah. So what do you want to be when you grow up?
Retired. No, it really
sounds like you really enjoy what you do.
I love what I do. And I want to write more. I want to think about how to articulate lessons learned. I want to articulate what's important in leadership and how you think about innovation, little innovations and innovation in the margins that make a big difference and a big impact. It's not just like wearable technology, Tesla and Apple and all of those big heavy hitters that have research and development operations where there's billions of dollars being spent. There's lots of people doing great things. There's lots of businesses in this region, Scranton, Wilkes-Barre, and beyond, that are doing great things. Pride Mobility down here. There's so many organizations that do great things and are having an impact and helping lots of people. Kids need to know that.
Yeah. So you mentioned a couple like the heavy hitters like Apple and Tesla. Are there any companies, maybe it's those two, are there any companies that you kind of follow and watch their innovation and take notes from and learn from?
Yeah, I've always been a big fan of Apple and of course Steve Jobs, but I'm really fascinated with Tim Cook and what he's been able to do and how he's taken and made an exponential jump even after Mr. Jobs' death. And so I love watching Apple. I love the experimentation going on at Tesla. I'm love Disney and Bob Iger, who is now not the CEO, but he's chairman of the board. I think Bob Iger's probably the CEO that I admire the most. What he did with Disney, what he knew about animation, and what he figured out, how he acquired companies for content, and strategically placed Disney in a market that was either they were gonna eat it alive, or they were gonna rise, and they did just that. He was just an amazing thinker, kind of an even-keeled leader, and so I take a lot from his work.
Really cool.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about some of the programs and degrees that Lackawanna College offers.
Well, we started off as a 2-year institution. So we started off as a junior college way back when. And the junior colleges are the private equivalent to a community college, right? So there's 2-year community colleges, there's 2-year junior colleges. We changed that name in the mid-90s to become just Lackawanna College. We offer associate's degrees. We now offer bachelor's degrees as well. We have a continuing education department that has certificates. Our strongest majors, it's so hard to say what the strongest majors are because it depends on what you want. So our healthcare programs, for example, nursing, ultrasound technicians, and so on, are 2-year degree programs, and you're coming out making $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year. We have our School of Petroleum and Natural Gas, which is the only school of petroleum and natural gas in the region, I think in the Northeast, aside from any engineering departments. These kids are coming out after kids, right? I always say kids. These students are coming out after 2 years, and they're making 6 figures, and companies are buying them a truck and a computer, and they're not entry-level technicians. They go in as mid-level managers, or they participate in upstream or downstream, distribution, sales, parts of the business. They're making a fortune, and it's a need in the industry, right? The industry around here hires all our grads. There's probably more jobs than we have students. Even in the air, it doesn't matter if there's drilling or not. We crafted it so that it's really industry driven. It's a big ecosystem. And then, of course, we have our business and criminal justice degrees. We have a police academy, 2 police academies, one in Hazleton, right down the road from Penn State. Hazleton.
We are. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. You're mad about that.
I am mad about that. But the blue and white, I feel
we share a little commonality.
Kindred spirit with the blue and white. And one in Scranton. And they've been around since the 70s. And I mean, if you're looking at municipal police officers in this region, they're coming from us. So it's a really wonderful program, and it's Act 120, municipal police officer training, is a law, so it's really legislatively governed. And we've been participating in that for a really long time. It's a very successful program.
Cool. What are some of your long-term goals?
I think for the college, our long-term goals revolve around having a social and economic impact. We really want to take, because we, as I mentioned before, so much poverty in the local school districts around us, we're trying to help students see the value of going from one socioeconomic class to another. The middle class is shrinking. We want to expand it. And these programs provide access to jobs that do that. But, so as is so often the case, poverty is as much a lifestyle as a middle class lifestyle, as much as an upper class lifestyle, if you will. And so helping and teaching students what that means and how to live differently is equally as important. Okay. And so what we're trying to do is have a social impact and economic impact and help our region stabilize and grow and have it be, we want to be a destination, not just for higher ed, but we want to participate in the turnaround of the city and the turnaround of the school district, as I mentioned before, and be a place for eSports and think about, we have a venture lab, which is kind of a pre-incubator, business incubator. We do microloans for students who want to start really small businesses and help entrepreneurs. We want to build a Center for Technology Innovation, which you're probably you are the first person to hear that publicly.
All right.
That we're going to be announcing the full scope of that soon, where the jobs of the future are technology driven. It is now no longer a blue collar and white collar society. There's a new collar that's emerging. Not sure what that is yet, but it's technology based. These digital natives, all these students that are, first generation, all digital, need other outlets other than engineering or computer science. There's so much more out there, and we want to participate in that.
So how do you see the future of higher ed and mixed in a little bit, you just talked a little bit about the technology and thinking of the future in terms of technology. You also said a little bit earlier too, like these people you're trying to teach for jobs that you don't even know exist yet.
Right. So
like, what do you see as the future of higher ed and technology together?
I think the future of higher ed, the industry is in the middle of a disruption. And students and families are better consumers than they have ever been before, and they have to be. The value proposition has to be there. And they're not going to stand for paying $62,000 a year or $50,000 a year when you don't need to. As good as some of these schools are, I think pricing themselves out of a market is a very real possibility. For a business degree that you can get at another school that may or may not be as good, but certainly from a price point is going to be more competitive. So I think we have to think about higher education as a lifelong process, as stackable credentials. Not everyone needs a degree. That is true. But everyone needs a skill. And everyone needs to be able to enter the workforce with some kind of meaningful evidence that they can be a good employee and that they're willing to learn. And I think part of our mission is not just to give students access. We all give everybody access, right? It's about what we do when they're here. And so those stackable credentials, those micro credentials and certificates that stack up and make something over the life of the student's experience with us, that's what higher ed is going to become. It's going that way. It's unaffordable for a lot of students, and that's a reality we face. And our tuition is pretty manageable, but it's not the cheapest. From a community college perspective, they are the least expensive across the board. So what's the value? Why do they want to come to us? And we have to continue to evolve and innovate and create programs that are worthy of people's investment in us. Because that's the way I look at it, right? People, families, and students are investing in us. We need to give them a return on that investment. And so we have to be the best that we can be and provide that, that point and that philosophy to them every day.
What advice would you have for any graduates that are graduating this year?
From college or high school?
Both.
Well, from high school, I think shop around. Really look at the value proposition with what you're getting. And I know it's hard because you may want to go to this great school and it's so expensive. And coming out with $100,000 or $200,000 worth of debt and knowing that you're probably going to have to go to grad school. That's another, big chunk of change that you have to consider taking with you for the rest of your life. You need to think about finances. You need to shop it around. You need to look at the value proposition and think about what you really want. But understand that no matter where you go, you're probably going to get a great education, right? That's probably true. There's just locally, there's some amazing institutions. Ask how they're going to teach you to think for the future, because what you do today, you're not going to do tomorrow, and it doesn't matter if you're a lawyer, a doctor, a nurse, a technician, in business, in industry. What you do today, you're not going to do 5 years from now. So how do you think through being able to do that? So that's important. I think families need to ask those questions too. And then for college grads, be open. Be open. There's so many opportunities out there. Explore. It doesn't mean when my dad worked for RCA forever, all of his entire career. That's rare now. That's probably not going to happen. So understand it's okay. You're probably going to change careers 3, 4, 5 or more times. Careers, not just jobs. And that's okay. Because that's what that's what the world is now.
I was going to say that that is very common now.
Yeah.
And I forget who I was just talking to about that the other day, but somebody else was saying that, and it's people, it's not like you said, it was your father that worked for RCA.
Yeah.
So like that just doesn't happen anymore.
It just doesn't.
And it's just so different.
And maybe shouldn't. Right? That doesn't mean, we love that when employees are long-term employees with us. We also understand that people leave for other opportunities, and we're proud to have given a leg up when they come to us. Or maybe people come to us after they've had other experiences and want to work with us in our culture and the way that we shape ideas and are trying to shape the future of higher ed. So I think for college grads, be flexible. Don't pigeonhole yourself, and don't think about I have to get a great job now right out of the gate making X.
Yeah, I think that's where a lot of people go wrong.
And you got to earn your stripes. I think students come out today thinking they're going to be like CEO in a month. Like it's
or millionaire overnight.
Right. And it's you have to earn it, and you have to work for it. And we, I think I'm an Xer, Gen Xer. I'm learning every day how to deal with millennials. I'm learning every day how to deal with Gen Zs. It's not an easy adjustment for me to make. And so I've had to adjust a lot of my leadership style to meet the expectations of the millennials and the Zs.
How do you do that?
Oh, man. It's maddening to me. I find myself having to slow down. I'm a person, first in, last out. That's been my career. Work-life balance is not always great for me. But that's not what millennials want, and that's not what Zs want. And they often have come with lots of preconceived notions and opinions. And so I find myself having much more conversation around how to get things done and the vision and the focus of the college, in teaching as much as listening. So that has been, I've had to slow my pace down, because I like a certain pace of change and progress. And so I have had to check myself
before you wreck yourself.
My goodness. And the Zs and millennials almost demand that of you. Like
constant change,
or like you got to meet me more than halfway. I'm not going to do the things the way that you did. I'm not going to give up my vacation, or I'm not going to leave when my time is over. That doesn't mean I'm not going to think about work. I'm not going to answer your email at 9:00 at night. I'm used to people. I work just constantly. That's not a good thing. That's not a model I suggest people mirror. And I've had to get used to that.
Yeah.
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 So millennials are a challenge.
We're tough.
For me. You're tough.
We are.
Billy, you're so tough.
I know. Look at me.
But it's something that is important. The future of the workforce is the millennial workforce. That's it right there.
Yeah.
And so how can I adjust my leadership style and our organization to foster millennial development and leadership and talent in a way that's different than when I grew up? We have to think about that, and we have to be realistic about it, and we have to be forward thinking about that.
Really cool. Is there any other message you'd like to leave with our listeners?
I would say we're really a proud organization. We've been named best places to work, in Pennsylvania for the last several years. We're a place of innovation and curiosity and lifelong learning, and a place where we tolerate mistakes because that's how we learn. This place is a really cool place, and it's a fun place to be. It's a fun place for students to explore and learn and grow. And I think that Lackawanna College is poised to be a really strong force for Northeastern Pennsylvania into the future.
I agree. I think you're doing some really cool things.
Thank you.
I'm highly impressed.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's really cool to see. You know, like I said, it's not often that, you know, myself or, you know, I'd say like the average person gets to, you know, sit down with someone like you and have a conversation about these types of things on such a high level. And it's just really cool to see and understand all the things that you're doing behind the scenes.
It's fun. And you're doing such great work. I mean, I love the podcast. I love
Thank
what
you.
you're doing and how you're thinking about the future of digital media. And, you know, this is...
I'm going to change it.
Yeah. And you can.
Yeah.
You know, you can have that kind of impact. And to be right here in northeastern Pennsylvania, we need more of that.
We do.
Yes, we do.
We definitely do.
Good job.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it. How can our listeners connect with Lackawanna College online?
Lackawanna.edu.
How about social media?
Yeah, we have a lot of content. You know, our LinkedIn pages are out there. Twitter is out there.
Is there anything else that I didn't ask you that I should have asked you?
I don't think so. I think just know that we're trying to be mindful of how to be strategic for the future of the workforce and future of higher education. And, you know, we're all about making sure that this region grows. And the people in it who stay here, live here, work here, raise families here, this isn't a default option, right? This is a real wonderful place to be, and a place to grow, and a place to raise children and your children's children. So let's take advantage of it, and let's build this thing together.
And you don't need to leave the area.
You don't.
I think that's important.
You don't.
Like you just touched on that a little.
And so many kids can't, and families can't afford that. Don't be sorry about it. There's too many great institutions, not just higher education institutions, but great organizations and industries here. There's lots of ways to design a really meaningful, incredible life.
Yeah, absolutely. This has been fun. Thanks for you gave me some swag.
Of course we got swag.
Yeah, you gave me some hats, which is really cool. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you. It was great.
Yeah.
I appreciate it, Billy. Thank you.
Absolutely. Lackawanna College, Dr. Jill Murray on the Stacks podcast in the Blue Door studio. Thanks for joining me. If you'd like to learn more about the On the Stacks podcast, be sure to search the hashtag #OnTheStacks on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and leave a review. We'll catch you next time on the Stacks.